This is the story of how a tenant trashed my house, ran away with the keys, and basically left me with two choices. I was either to enter the house illegally or go through a very lengthy court system that was going to take time and a lot of money. Here's what happened and how I actually turned the situation into the best financial decision of my life. Now, at the start of 2018, I bought my first house. And 2 months after this, I decided to go on a year abroad, kind of a gap year to Spain that my university was offering. I decided that while I was away, I would rent out my house. And I went with an estate agent that offered me a guaranteed rent of £800 per calendar month. Now, when I came home from Spain, I had two options: take the house back or find somewhere else and let the current tenant stay in the house. I decided to move into uni halls and let the current tenant stay in my property. This was my real first venture into property investing. Now, as the months went by, I actually got friendly with the tenant. I went round to sort a few maintenance issues out, and it got to the point that they actually weren't contacting the estate agent anymore if there was a problem. They just come straight to me. Fast forward to the end of 2021, and I'm living in Dubai, and I get an email from the estate agent. And it's a forwarded email from the tenant saying that they've given their 1 month's notice and they're going to leave the property. I thought it was a little strange because I'd talked to the tenant multiple times during that year, and they actually told me that they wanted to stay for years. Anyway, I sent a message to the tenant saying thank you for being such a good tenant and I hope everything goes well with your move and, all the best for the future. Now, I didn't receive a text back from the tenant, which at the time I found really strange because it was the first time that they'd never text me back, never mind to such a text message like goodbye and good luck. This was in November and the tenant had given themselves a move out date of the 20th of December. So I came home for Christmas and I arranged with my estate agent that we would go and do like a checkout viewing on the 21st of December, the day after the tenant was supposedly going to move out. The estate agent rings me on the 20th and they explain to me that they can't get in touch with the tenant, they haven't dropped off the keys, and basically they don't know where they are. They also explained to me that they'd had trouble with the tenant over the course of that year, saying that they'd been abusive to the staff on the phone and that they'd been awkward with when they were trying to arrange viewings on the property to make sure that the property was in good standard. But this was the first time that I was hearing any of this, so I was really surprised because in my eyes, if that was happening, the estate agent should have been keeping me in the light basically. However, at this point I wasn't really that concerned with this, I just wanted to get the property back. Now, naively at the time, I thought that we would just be able to enter the property as the tenant had given the move out date, that move out date had passed, there was clearly nobody at the property, but the estate agent told me that I wasn't allowed to do that, and if I was to enter with one of my own keys then I would actually be breaking the law. They said we had to wait for the tenant to actually hand over the keys before we could even go into the property. Now, this was my first glimpse into some of the tenancy rights that are kind of crazy. Here I was, tenant seemingly gone, house looked empty, move out date had been given, but because a tenant hadn't dropped off the keys at the office, then we literally were not allowed to enter the property by law. To top it all off, the estate agent told me I would actually have to go to court to regain possession if they didn't drop the keys off. I was like, something doesn't add up here, surely. Anyway, the estate agent rings me up on the 28th and they've come back from the Christmas break and the tenant has actually dropped the keys off in the office. So we arranged to go and do a viewing on the 29th and what we find is a completely trashed property with stuff everywhere. And when I say trashed, I mean it stinks of smoke, it stinks of dog wee. It was just disgusting. And I couldn't quite believe it because there was rubbish everywhere, the walls were filthy, there was holes in the wall, and the reason I couldn't believe it was because 3 months prior, the estate agent had actually sent me like a report. They'd gone round and they'd looked at the property. And on the report it looked okay. But upon further inspection of that report, it actually became clear to me that the estate agent had hidden a lot of the damage and a lot of the mess that the tenant had made, seemingly to keep the actual tenancy going so that they could keep the money coming in. So this hit me quite hard because it was my first home, and it was a beautiful home. When I bought it, it was immaculate, and I just got it back in such a state, and it really hurt me. So we spent £10,000 redecorating, reconfiguring a few things, and at this point I was back in Dubai. Now, after the work was done and completed, the same agent offered me the exact same guaranteed rent as 3 years prior, £800. And I thought, there's absolutely no way that I'm giving it back to an estate agent that showed complete disregard for the property, and all they were interested in was basically how much money they were making every month. So I had to think of a solution, and I had to think of one quite fast. Now, at this point it was March, and we were coming home in April for a couple of weeks at Easter. And now at the time, I was just starting to research property investing and starting to really get my head into it. And of course, I'd heard of Airbnb and Booking.com, and I was starting to see videos of how, as a host, you could keep control of your property and also earn more money. So that's what we decided to do. We decided that when we were back in the 2 weeks, we were going to order a load of furniture and we were going to kit it out as an Airbnb. So we hired a management company, and to cut a long story short, we made over £3,000 every month from April to October. Now, we returned from Dubai in the July and we started to manage it ourselves. And since then, we have turned 2 more of our own properties into Airbnbs, and we also manage a handful of properties for other people. Now, the moral of this story is, for me at least, that often a disaster is actually a blessing in disguise, and for me it was the biggest blessing because I've actually turned it into my investment strategy, and I've also turned it into a business with my management company. So it's not always as bad as it seems. Sometimes you need those things to happen for you to venture into something new. Now, I hope you've all enjoyed the video today. If you have any questions for me, or if you just want some advice, I'm always here. I will leave my email in the description below. Lastly, I want to say, do not let this story put you off property investing. It is here to inspire, not to discourage. I hope you've all enjoyed the video. If you can find it in your hearts to hit the subscribe button, you'll see more content from me. Thank you for watching the video, and goodbye.